Hello, this is Hope, and you're listening to Covert Castaway. Welcome to my weekly diary of what I learn and how I cope with transitioning to life as a liveaboard cruiser. Hello, and thank you for listening. I'm recording this podcast aboard our brand new catamaran from the middle of the Mediterranean. And it's been absolutely breeze getting here. My husband and I barely argue. I highly recommend this. Yeah, no, that's not what's happening here. I'm in complete transition at the moment in so many ways, and I'm starting to really wrap my head around this huge life change that I'm 100% committed to, but for some reason, I find ways to second guess myself. Am I making the right life choices? Is this reckless? Will my kids hate me forever because I'm selling their childhood home? What happens if I change my mind and want to come back or hate it the first year? Am I trashing my career I've spent 30 years building? Does it matter? If you can relate to any of this podcast is definitely for you. So before I get started, I want to put some context around this channel before we dive in and let you know what to expect. I personally have a hard time subscribing to podcasts without knowing what I'm committing to when I hit the button. It's a commitment. So first off, I'm not using my real name. I'm going to explain why. The purpose of this podcast is to share my own unedited, candid experience about what I'm learning. It's been a multi-year journey, and I've been, trying to build a plan to quit my job, buy a boat, sail around the world, and be a liveaboard cruiser with my husband. And this is happening, while my friends, family, and coworkers will just be shaking their heads later and calling us crazy. So helping them get through the change, So I want to be able to really share my experience so that maybe it helps someone else, because honestly, the research and mental gymnastics from taking something like this from a really big, crazy idea to an actual plan, it takes a lot of time, and it's mentally more challenging than I thought it would be. I guess that's a good way to put it. What's incredible to me is how completely life-changing this is, and how much a lot of the online information focuses on things like what boat to buy, and it moves to equipment and repairs, what ports to pick and where you're supposed to go, and safety training and things like that. So it's been hard to get insight on life-changing decisions we all face and the emotions that go along with such a big transition. I mean, we're basically moving to Mars. At least that's what it feels like. One of the most useful places to get information and support is through other couples or women telling their stories about how they face some of these issues. And I have to say, when I sit and talk to other women, hearing their stories makes me feel not so alone. So I wanted to share mine in case you're going through the same thing. I originally considered a video blog for YouTube, but the problem is I have a job, and it's a job where I have to act like a grown-up, and the older I get, the smaller the world is, and the last thing my boss or my peers or my team that works for me needs to know is how excited I am to give it all up and walk away. So I can't really reveal who I am yet. So I figured that'll come soon enough. Until that time, I thought maybe a podcast was a way to go. We have some time to go before we cast off. From now until our cast off date is almost a year. And we've been through a couple years of planning already. So there's some time, but I wanted to share these things as they're fresh in my head and happening. But until that time, we need our jobs. And I need my job in particular to, pay for the boat. So that's another reason why. I've talked to other people who share this concern, and I've got to say it's rough because there's no outlet for getting any kind of moral support outside of, strangers online that you've never met, who are all really great, by the way. All the people I've met online and talked to about this have been fantastic. It's actually a great community. Yeah, so I just feel like if you are expecting a baby, you have 6 months for people to help you be excited and face something super scary and nothing you're remotely equipped to handle, at least when you have your first baby. And when you want to make a change like this, being a liveaboard cruiser, it's like this huge secret you have to keep for the years and no one to really talk to besides your spouse. I love talking to him, but it'd be nice. I felt like it would be nice to listen to other women's stories. So I wanted to be able to share these concerns without being outed at work and all that. So the second reason this is anonymous is I want the freedom to be totally honest about my experiences with financial planning, with the boat buying process, the commissioning. I can see that's going to be challenging. And learning about all the equipment and systems, learning to sail, the broker experience. And there's just all the godforsaken thousands of administrative mind benders like medical considerations and figuring out how to work as a team with your spouse. I felt like if I gave myself creative license to share everything openly without fear of backlash, it would come out as it is supposed to. Yeah, so that's another reason. And I think the third reason is I don't want to be emotionally attached to any of the inevitable trolling that happens on the internet. So I have set an expectation that this podcast isn't going to be for everybody, and that's okay. The boating community itself I found to be incredible. Women, especially in cruisers, are absolutely magical people, kind and generous and warm, responsible, open-minded. But the world is just really strange right now, and I think just like anywhere else, there are parts about sailing that could use a little change of perspective, but I just didn't want to attach myself to that kind of feedback. By the way, if you're a man listening, welcome, and thank you for being open-minded. I think you may at least have a perspective that you may not have thought about in bringing your wife or your girlfriend along. So thank you. And another big disclaimer, I'm not an expert. I don't have any commercial motivation. I'm not monetizing my channel or representing any products. I think it's important to know that. I also appreciate that, learning centuries of knowledge and experience about seafaring can never be done in one lifetime. I'm sharing my experience, as I'm going through it, but it's not like I have a ton of sailing experience to share with you. So that's not my goal here. My goal is just in some small way to help you not feel so alone in your journey transitioning to this new lifestyle. And I hope to meet you someday on the water. That would be awesome. So long story short, I'll introduce myself as the Covert Castaway. I think appropriately I picked the name Hope. And if you're a friend of mine or family member or you've figured out, it can be our little secret. So thank you for listening. And I really do hope you give this podcast a chance while I'm working out all the kinks and getting comfortable with it. And I hope to earn your subscription and your feedback, to make it better. Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, like, or share with another Covert Castaway. Fair winds for now.